Now, in an era of unpredictable weather patterns and cycles of drought followed by floods, early warning systems are so important to enable disaster preparedness, to enable governments, stakeholders like farmers, humanitarian organizations, to know what to expect and what to predict for that forecast. Which is why today on Power Talk, we're having a very important conversation. I'm speaking to Dr. Ahmed Amdihun, who is the Regional Program Manager for Disaster Risk Management at the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center. Now, we'll be talking about what this center has been doing in the country and for the region since 1989. And we'll also be talking about the importance of those early warning systems, that data, what happens, what to do with it, and how can governments better prepare for disaster in the ever-changing climate in the world, and particularly in the region. In fact, if you're keen on knowing what the October to December weather season will be looking like, we have all the details for you on Power Talk, an important conversation in the country and the region today. That is on Power Talk, but first, the news, which starts right now.
Live from Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Joki Shege is our sign language interpreter. Now, tonight, 8 police officers, among them the sub-county police commander at Gigiri Police Station, have been interdicted. 4 of the 8 officers are currently in custody. The officers are under investigation after 13 suspects, among them the main murder suspect in the Kware killings, Collins Jumaisi, escaped from police custody. Investigators probing the Kware killings are in limbo now after the main suspect escaped from custody before even taking plea. Franklin Wala reports that 4 police officers arrested and detained are sharing scanty details on the circumstances under which the detainees escaped.
Collins Jumaisi Halusha had been confined at Gigiri police station. He seemingly had a rather easy time of breaking out alongside 12 illegal aliens. His escape was from a police station in a highly guarded diplomatic neighborhood and with top-notch security detail. Following the mishap, 8 police officers based at Gigiri police station have been interdicted. 4 among the 8 officers are currently in custody and are helping investigators probing the prison break. Those under probe include the Gigiri OCPD. The police commander claims he has never accessed the cells since the murder suspect was brought to his station. Investigators are questioning this because it is his mandate to inspect the cells on a daily basis. The OCS is also a man on the detective's radar, as well as the cell sentry and report office officer.
Consequently, I have interdicted 8 officers who were on duty last night, among them the Kikiri Sub-County Police Commander, OCS, Kikiri Police Station, Duty Officer, Duty NCO, Station Cards and Report Office personnel. The matter is currently under investigation by Internal Affairs Unit, and any person found culpable will face full force of law.
A team of investigators from the Crime Research Bureau has been dispatched to pursue Jumaisi. The foreigners had been detained after they were found in the country illegally. Investigators are searching for answers on who facilitated the escape, since police believe it was an inside job.
Our preliminary investigation indicated that the escape was aided by insiders, considering that officers were deployed accordingly to guard the station.
Mobile phones belonging to the 8 officers are under scrutiny to analyze if a third party was part of the plan. Detectives are of the view that human trafficking is a serious transnational organized crime and well-funded. They want to establish where the process of human trafficking played a role in the escape, and Collins Halusha, the murder suspect, took advantage. Police tried to retrieve CCTV footage adjacent to the point where the suspects are said to have jumped from the top of a roof, only to realize the CCTV camera was not functional.
We further appeal to the members of public with any information that may lead to the rearrest of the suspect, especially the murder suspect, Collins Jumaisi Halusha, to to report to the nearest police station.
Investigators are also considering questioning a lawyer who represents one of the escapees and represented a suspect who also escaped from police custody. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
All right, let's talk about how that happened. Preliminary investigations by police into the escape of 13 detainees from Gigiri police station suggest an inside job implicating officers who've since been suspended and taken into custody. The station was declared a crime scene on Tuesday following the breakout in the early hours Tuesday morning, during which the main suspect in the Kware murders, Collins Jumaisi, escaped. Ben Kirui now paints an illustration of how the inmates staged the daring escape after cutting through wire mesh outside the cells before jumping out to Limuru Road through the fence at the back of the police station.
The wire mesh, located approximately 3 to 4 meters above the ground, was severed and used by the escapees to break free. Among the 13 fugitives were Collins Jumaisi, a suspect in the Kware murder case, and 12 Eritreans detained for illegal entry into the country. They managed to escape in the early hours of Tuesday morning, despite the presence of police. Several questions arise regarding their escape. The possibility of scaling the wall is under scrutiny, as there is no evidence suggesting they climbed the wall directly. Could they have used each other's shoulders to reach the breach in the wire mesh? Additionally, how did all the 13 manage to escape without being noticed by the officers on duty? Preliminary investigations, according to Acting Inspector General Gilbert Masengeli, suggest the escape may have been facilitated by insiders, as the officers had been properly deployed to guard the station.
Haya mambo yote yako katika harakati ya uchunguzi, na wale unaoniuliza kwamba ni akina nani hawa, ni police officers wale walikuwa wana jukumu la kuhakikisha usalama wa hii police station ya Gikiri iko salama na wafungwa ambao walikuwa ndani ya hizo cells.
Another point of confusion is the timing of the escape. How did the detainees manage to break out by 5 a.m. when they were supposed to be inside the cells? The fenced area with wire mesh is usually where detainees bask during the day. According to a police report, at 5 a.m., Police Constable Gerald Mutuku conducted a routine check and discovered the escape when he found the 13 suspects gone after cutting through the wire mesh. At the time of the escape, a total of 17 suspects were being held at the station. The 4 who remained behind have been questioned by the police.
Ndivyo wanaendelea kutusaidia jinsi ilivyokuwa, na haya mengi tutawaambia wakati tunapata hakika ya haya mambo.
After breaking out, the escapees climbed onto the roof, accessed the rear of the police station, and then fled towards Limuru Road via the fence. The escapees used this fence as their exit point after breaking out, reportedly with the assistance of police officers. What Kenyans are now eager to see is those responsible officers being held accountable in court. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Gigiri, Nairobi County.
Definitely a developing story we shall be following. Let's continue now with our ongoing focus on the university funding model. Universities have now been asked to admit all students for learning, regardless of whether they have the household contribution for tuition or not. National Assembly members told the Principal Secretary for Higher Education to instruct universities to implement that directive as the ministry seeks to rectify errors that have been identified with the new university banding funding model that has seen hundreds of students placed in what they deem as wrong financial bands, placing education out of their reach. Brenda Wanga reports.
List the 4, then sit Elachi.
The crisis unfolding in the funding of higher education ahead of the start of this year's university academic year was on the floor of the August House, the main agenda over Speaker's Kamukunji.
The methodology or all these parameters they set up are what is actually causing students to be placed in bands that they do not.
The newly introduced model of funding that allocates money to students based primarily on their household income has caused confusion, with students who have been categorized complaining of having been placed in the wrong bands. MPs taking the top-level education ministry officers to task to justify the changes in the funding model.
Yes, we understand that there is a lot of maybe fake information that came in. But even the statistics out there, do they justify to tell us that such many people earn over 120,000 shillings in Kenya?
Before they are categorized in certain bands, they have visited their household to determine the level of poverty. Some of us, Honorable Speaker, from our community, we take pride in our cows.
It's high time we acknowledge that this system is quite a mess. We must go back to the drawing board. We are wasting the life and the future of our children.
The Ministry of Education officials say the model, while well-intentioned, has run into headwinds, especially on the collection of adequate data on family incomes, with students either giving incorrect information at application stage or getting insufficient aid while filing the forms at cyber cafes. The ministry also acknowledging that the type of school students attended has contributed to their banding.
When we use the secondary school that a student went to as an indicator, and the students went to national schools, and they have not demonstrated that they were funded through Harambes or they had a guardian or bursaries, then it becomes very difficult for us not to discriminate, not to use that variable as a discriminator. However, this is what then opens the opportunity for appeal, so that with more information, we can then correctly classify these students, and this will also include...
The issue the schools or the school somebody attended is very misleading, because most of us are in WhatsApp group fundraising. Parents sacrifice to even do those fundraisers so that kids can go to good schools for a better life, not that they can afford it. So can you please relook, because it's very misleading.
MPs asking the ministry to review that means testing tool to ensure equity and fairness.
You need to approach this thing using financial tools, like you are a credit committee in a bank. And this information is there. And the application, I would suggest, are made while people are still in high school, so that the teachers and the students can work together and capture the historical data on how those students have been financed over the years.
But before those changes are effected, MPs want all students allowed to join university and learn without hindrances brought about by the confusion in the banding.
Even children who don't have money should go and report. Those with distorted data should go and correct at the university. This is something that we didn't need a Kamkunji to be told.
At the same time, the MPs are asking the ministry to consolidate all the bursaries into a common basket for better disbursement in an equitable and fair manner.
We have an MCA giving bursaries, an MP giving bursaries, a constituents-based, a women rep are giving bursaries. We have governors giving bursaries. We have your minister giving bursaries. We have banks making their own interventions, and so on and so forth.
And Awanga, Citizen TV.
And peers.
Meanwhile, hundreds of families are still calling for a review of awarded scholarships for new university students to grant their children access to higher education. In a spot check by Citizen TV, students reported downtime in accessing the Higher Education Fund portal, watering down their attempts to apply for appeals of the bands in which they were placed. Laura Otieno reports on a tale of two students who could potentially miss out on higher education due to lack of funds.
At Bomisiji village in Bobasi, Kisii County, the family of Felix Omboga is at a crossroads. The result of Felix's hard work continues to slip from his hands with each passing day. In 2 days' time, Felix is expected to report to Kisii University to pursue a bachelor's degree in agricultural education. Despite living hand to mouth, this family is expected to raise a whopping 138,754 shillings to cater for Felix's first-year education.
Na mama sasa kakuja kakua kirema, alikuwa anatoa hii avocado anauza. Hiyo tu. Hakuna pesa nyingine mahali hapa Boma hii. Hakuna kabisa.
Huko nang'ang'ananga huko nyumbani kukimbia vibarua. Napata kama 200, 300. Nimejaribu kujinunulia jenye ninaweza. Ipatikana hata mimi nimejisukuma kidogo.
Felix has spent the last coin he had trying to place an appeal through the Higher Education Fund portal, but he is yet to make any headway. Miles away in Taita Taveta County, Feni Anyango is in a similar predicament. Her father, a casual laborer, is expected to raise 122,400 shillings to facilitate her education for the first year. Feni, who secured admission to the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology to study medicine and surgery, could lose it due to the financial situation.
Tukiappeal like change, sioni kama ninaweza maliza hizo 6 years. Sioni naweza ingia, that is, lakini sasa kuwa sustained within those 6 years, it will not be possible.
Ijapokuwa walituambia kwamba appeal window itakuwa from today na mpaka leo hiyo portal wajafungua, na huyu mtoto by 26 of August yatakana report. So kwa sahi I'm in dilemma.
Felix and Feni face challenges that are quite similar to those faced by hundreds of other families across the country who question the criteria used to band the students. They can only wait to see if their appeals will go through and how the government will fix the cracks through which thousands of ambitions to access higher education slip with each passing day. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
Safina Party leader Jimmy Wanjigi was on Tuesday afternoon released on a personal bond of 10 million shillings after he appeared in court a day after his dramatic arrest at Nairobi Police Headquarters. Wanjigi, who appeared before Milimani Chief Magistrate Susan Shtubi, was not charged for allegedly being in possession of firearms without a license after his legal team made an application to have his plea taking deferred for 4 weeks.
In handcuffs after his arrest on Monday, Jimmy Wanjigi arrived to a packed courtroom. A battery of lawyers were on hand to defend the politician cum businessman who has been targeted by the government since the Nane Nane protests. His wife and children sat quietly as the advocates put their best foot forward to challenge the 10 charges of being in possession of firearms without a certificate that the prosecution had preferred against Wanjigi.
All those copies of the court orders are there.
Senior counsel Paul Mwite led the defense team in making an application to postpone plea taking for 4 weeks to allow them challenge the prosecution in High Court.
Even as the accused or the suspect was being arrested, there were valid court orders issued by the High Court of Kenya directing the suspect not to be arrested.
The prosecution has not said that any of these charges is not of the firearms covered in these 2 orders. And once there are stop orders, you cannot arrest for purported lack of license when the withdrawal of the licenses is on hold by a superior court.
On their side, the prosecution argued that the charges were proper, arguing that the order issued by the High Court was silent on what happens when Wanjigi commits an offense.
The issues raised against the police, and which I have no reason to doubt, but that this court has no jurisdiction to make a determination thereon. And without jurisdiction, you down your pen.
The court ordered Wanjigi and his aide, David Kibe, who was arrested for allegedly being in possession of explosives, to be released on 10 million shillings personal bond each, ahead of a ruling on whether the plea taking will be deferred for 4 weeks or not, to be delivered on September 12th. And immediately after his release, Wanjigi addressed journalists, attributing his woes to his political stand.
William Ruto, why do you fear me? If you fear me, be a man. Come and deal with me properly, kiwanjani ya siasa, not in my home. terrorizing my family, and not in these courts with trumped-up charges. You are afraid that we are redefining the politics of this nation.
Wanjigi later on Tuesday evening got a reprieve after the High Court issued orders stopping his prosecution with respect to any firearms or accessories registered in his name until a case he filed on Monday is heard and determined. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Survivors of Tuesday's horrific bus accident that claimed the lives of 14 people at Migaa in Molo, Nakuru, narrated to Citizen TV the events leading to the accident, expressing relief at having survived an incident that claimed the lives of fellow passengers. A first-year student who was to report to Pwani University on Tuesday morning, Rhoda Atieno, told Citizen TV how the crash interrupted her journey to school, where she was to register as a first-year student. Marianne Nyambura reports that the death toll from the accident has risen to 14 after one more person succumbed at the Nakuru Referral Hospital.
21-year-old Rhoda Atieno left her Siaya County home on Sunday, 18th August. She had hopes of starting her higher education journey as a first-year student at Pwani University in Kilifi County by end of day Tuesday. An elated Atieno booked a Mombasa-bound bus on Monday in Kisumu. Her dreams of joining university a journey away. But as it turned out, she was among the 55 survivors who were rushed to various hospitals for treatment after the bus they were in rammed a car at Migaa area, Sachangwan, along the Nakuru-Eldoret Highway on Tuesday morning. Hers is a case of surviving a near-death accident that claimed the lives of 14 people.
Okay, mi venye gari imebingirika hivyo, nikajikuta venye imeenda juu hivyo, si tukajikuta uko kando hivyo, mimi nikapata venye natoka.
What would have been a busy day at the Kilifi-based university to secure her first-year slot turned out different. Instead, she spent time with doctors and officers at the Molo police station. As she sifted through her documents folder to confirm that her certificates are still intact for her admission, she said that her perspective on life has changed.
Nilikuwa na expect nifike shule mapema ni report cause nilikuwa na hiyo haja kufika mapema, like nilikuwa too happy nifike mapema, but ndio hiyo accident kafanyika, sawa ikadelay hadi sasa bado niko Molo. Mama amefurahi, amesema tu ameshukuru Mungu kwa sababu survival hapo ilikuwa ngumu.
25-year-old Yvonne Atieno and her 3 children aged 8, 5 and 2.5 who were seated in the back seat of the ill-fated bus escaped unhurt.
Ni sauti nilikuwa nasikia, mam. Sasa mimi nilikuwa nachukua tule mwenye nitachukua. Sasa sikuwa najua ati naokoa watoto wangu. Sasa sauti ya mam, mimi nachukua tu nikirusha nje. Kutoka nje nikapata na watoto wangu ndio nimerusha nje. Kujaribu kutoka kwa kioo sitoshei, nikagonganisha hivi ndio nikatoshea nikatoka nje.
The driver of the Mombasa-bound bus is said to have lost control and rammed a car from the rear before the bus rolled. It reportedly experienced brakes failure. Survivors say the vehicle developed a mechanical problem even before their journey from Kisumu commenced. One person succumbed to injuries at the Nakuru Referral Hospital, raising the death toll to 14.
A total of 55 injured persons. The investigations have commenced with the traffic people, as you can see them around here, so that we get to know the exact cause of the accident.
While the survivors count themselves lucky, they are unlikely to forget the traumatic experience. Marianne Nyambura, Citizen TV.
Now, this week's Shabiki Super Jackpot bonus winner is Sebastian Wambua, who won 231,448 shillings. Mutua, a retired engineer, has pledged to use part of his winnings to pay the university entry fees for Josiah Ogachi, a student whose story of financial hardship was highlighted by Citizen TV on Sunday. Vincent Mumo has more.
Josiah Ogachi can finally breathe a sigh of relief this week, thanks to a heartwarming gesture by Shabiki Super Jackpot bonus winner Sebastian Wambua. The retired reliability engineer has pledged to cover Ogachi's first semester's fees for his bachelor's degree in computer science at Kenyatta University.
It becomes quite difficult, and
it's almost becoming another case of poverty killing destiny. So any well-wisher out there who is willing to support me, I'll be very, very grateful.
Wambua says that he began playing on Shabiki.com after witnessing others win, and now he is using his winnings to support education and uplift the less fortunate in society.
I saw this kid in Kisii, and the parents were crying and confused as to where they should get some little money for the boy to go to school. He's an excellent student, and since I'm in the computers, I think I will donate the first semester for that kid in Kisii to be able to report tomorrow.
In addition to his remarkable act of kindness, Wambua is aiming for the grand prize, the 10 million mega jackpot, which he says he would use in assisting more individuals in need.
I always, aim at the highest. 10 million, I would be very happy to get that. I'll still play that, so yes.
The Shabiki Super Jackpot is progressive, meaning that if it is not won, the prize amount increases every week. Additionally, players can look forward to huge bonuses for correctly predicting 12, 13 or 14 of the 15 winning outcomes. For a chance to join in the excitement and win huge bonuses, visit www.shabiki.com and play. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
All right, that's Emily Chebet there reporting on a heartwarming story of a man and his winnings. They're using that to support students who are in need of university education. I want us to take a break, but before we do that, let's take a look at what's been happening at the Senate. We now want to take you there, where the County Assembly's lawyers and Governor Kawira Mwangaza's advocates are presenting their closing arguments. The Meru governor, in testimony before the Senate, has blamed her woes on the Meru Senator Kathuri Murungi, whom she accused of being behind upheavals in the Assembly aimed at ousting her. Let's take a look at the closing arguments. Those are currently taking place at the Senate now. Ndegwanjiru is the man making his closing arguments.
For 6 months, she simply said, it wasn't me. When will Governor Kawira learn to be responsible? When will she ever learn to own up for a mistake that is so glaring such as this one? She takes no cognizance that money was spent unlawfully. She takes no cognizance of the provisions of Article 201 of the Constitution. Honorable Senators, Article 201 is paramount in the manner in which the resources of this nation are governed. Article 201 speaks about the principles of public finance, and it provides that there must be prudent use of public finances. Was this one way of prudent use of those resources? Why should a person who is in remand continue to earn a full salary? Why should actions not be taken for a person who perpetuates these violations?
All right, so that is currently happening at the Senate now. So what's happening is both parties have each been given 1 hour for their closing arguments, which means voting could take place much later on tonight. Remember, that is the third impeachment proceeding for Kawira Mwangaza, who is the Meru County Governor. We'll see how that unfolds and, of course, let you know the outcome of that vote and what happens next. Let's take that break here on The Explainer. But coming up, not too long ago, the country and the region experienced the worst drought in 40 years. Which is why climate early warning systems are very important. There is a center that is right here, headquartered here, but serving the region, established and founded in 1989. It is the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center. So today we're going to be speaking here on Power Talk about the work of this center, its importance in disaster preparedness for governments and heads of state. And we're here with the Regional Program Manager in charge of Disaster Risk Management at the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center, Dr. Ahmed Amdihoun. Thank you so much for making time for us on Power Talk.
Thank you.
I'd like to first get an understanding of this center. What do you do at the Climate Prediction and Application Center for IGAD?
Thank you very much, Yvonne. The IGAD Climate Prediction Application Center is a specialized institution of IGAD. IGAD is an intergovernmental body with 8 member countries. It is also a designated, regional climate center, RCC, by the World Meteorological Organization. The center primarily provides climate services, but also applications such as disaster risk management. Yeah.
So in all of this time, you've seen quite a bit, because from 1989 to date, gathering data and making that available to the stakeholders?
Exactly. So when the center started as a drought monitoring center, which evolved into one of the best regional centers in climate services. Along this line, we have developed quite a number of tools, including the East African Hazard Watch, which is publicly available for countries, humanitarian agencies and development partners to access and make decisions based on a near real-time monitoring of major hazards such as droughts and floods.
Yeah. Beyond real-time monitoring, you're also providing early warning systems. So tell us about what an early warning system entails. There's information and data that you generate there. What information are you generating? What do you do with the information, and who do you disseminate it to?
Yeah, thank you. I think early warning systems in general are early detection and timely dissemination of information. Very life-saving information that protects also livelihoods. These are actually very fundamental and often, pegged around 4 key pillars. The first being risk knowledge, understanding exposure, vulnerability, and so on. The second one is the detection part, where ICPAC is actually leading as a regional entity, as a regional body. And the third one is dissemination and communication. Okay, once you generate the information, it has to be reaching the last mile in as much as possible. That's the most important part. Yeah. And the fourth is actually how you now inform preparedness. Preparedness in the region, at country level, at national, subnational, local level.
All right.
Yeah.
So that information now assists with disaster preparedness, right?
Exactly.
So knowing what's to come, particularly with climatic conditions, and then doing something about it. So how has the information from the center been used before? Perhaps you could just give us an example of how disaster preparedness is assisted by the information and the early warning system.
Exactly. So as we release now the real-time monitoring and also forecasting of the situation in the region, in the entire Eastern Africa region, we also work closely with national disaster risk management authorities, for example. Whenever we detect some exceptional phenomena, we relate that information to countries, and they are there actually to take actions. The forecast we issued just today is also actually meant to inform the national preparedness plans. So countries will go from here and work on their national preparedness plans. That's exactly the ultimate goal. Not only the plan, the action bits also have to follow.
Right. Yeah. And the funds that would be needed.
Exactly. The financing is also very, very important.
Right.
Very, very important, yeah.
And so you talked about the forecast. So, we're going into, at least in Kenya, the short rain season. That's October to December of this year.
Yeah.
So give us the overall forecast for this season that is coming. For the Horn of Africa, wider Eastern Africa, and then we can talk about Kenya.
Exactly. So, thank you. So what we have just issued is a seasonal forecast for October to December season. The forecasts are actually, these seasons are, by the way, a very important short rains, particularly for the regions in the equator. So that includes southern Ethiopia, eastern parts of Kenya, parts of Somalia, and so on. So the forecasts are actually indicating that there is an increased chance of drier than usual conditions in the region, which is very important now to take note. In terms of temperature as well, there is warmer. The forecast indicates that the warmer than usual conditions for eastern part of the region again. This actually calls for immediate action as we speak. They really calls for immediate action. But I want to give a context as well, Yvonne.
Yes.
As we look at this regional forecast, Regional Climate Outlook Forum, we should be very careful not to just depend on this information, as we are going to update For example, for September, we are going to update this information, October, November. So as the season progresses, we are also providing updating to that one.
Okay.
Plus, the national governments, especially the national Met departments, are going to issue as well a seasonal forecast, which are also very important to inform national and local level actions.
So let's talk a little bit about the rain patterns, because you say we should expect lower than rainfall for the region. Let's talk about that even as we look at a map, and maybe you can explain to us what this is.
Yes, exactly. So this map that you see maybe indicates actually an increasing likelihood. The one you see in orange, in yellow, and so on, are areas actually that are going to receive a decreasing trend of rainfall from this particular forecast. It's a likelihood, it's a probability.
Right.
But these areas actually need to be closely monitored as the season evolves.
Okay, and these are, Kenya, Ethiopia,
southern
Somalia?
Ethiopia, southern and southeastern Ethiopia, eastern part of Kenya, much of Somalia, and part of also Tanzania, northern and central part of Tanzania. These are areas actually that are expected to have suppressed rainfall.
And so what do you do when, but before we get there, I want us to also take a look at the temperature map, because you said it'll be warmer than usual. So you can explain that to us, and then we can talk about both of them and the effects that they'd have. So it's, okay, so I imagine the orange is the warmer regions.
The red ones are the warmer regions now. The eastern side of the region actually is forecasted to be warmer than the average condition for those regions. So I think in that areas actually we're continually monitoring the situation and also updating, like in addition to the seasonal one, the monthly forecasts are going to be released. The national Met departments are also going to release the daily and weekly forecasts. I think those are very important information to inform our actions, particularly.
Right.
Yes.
So it looks like these regions will have lower than expected rainfall and higher than usual temperatures. So what does this outlook mean for food security, for livestock rearing and development? What are the likely effects of a forecast such as this one?
So I think over the last 2 days, yesterday and today, I think the member states have been convening from 6 sectors, including the ones you mentioned. So they're deliberating actually what could be the possible impacts of this situation of reduced rainfall in some areas and also increasing warmer than average temperatures. So the key, for example, in terms of agriculture, what we're saying is in these areas, I think the preparedness plans need to inform both farming communities for crop growing areas as well as pastoral areas in terms of water and feed availability. So they need to take this into consideration when they are planning actually their season.
What other sectors could it possibly
I think the 6 most important sectors that we as ICPAC are working with are, number 1 is disaster risk management sector.
Right.
The second one is agriculture and food security. The third one is water and energy. The fourth one is conflict. The fifth one is, by the way, media is also part of it. Those are the main ones actually that we're dealing with.
Because it's what we were talking about a little earlier. This is also a matter of security, because when you have reduced resources and communities that have to essentially fight or share, scarce resources, then this also has a security component attached to it.
Definitely, that's exactly the point. Now, whenever there is reduced rainfall, usually water and pasture availability becomes an issue of contention now. So communities usually move in search of water and pasture. That definitely creates conflicts. So that's why actually one sector is dealing with the climate security and peace nexus also. How this is translating into the security issue in the region.
Yes, and that's an important component to always remember. Now, what's interesting, Dr. Ahmed, is this information is publicly available, right?
Definitely.
There is a portal.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Actually,
so who has access to this portal, and what sort of information do you put out there?
Exactly. Now, from this exercise with all member countries, 11 of them, what is really important is we're going to generate advisories for decision makers. In the coming 1 to 3 days, I think it's going to come out and it will be publicly available. In addition, the portal you mentioned, Yvonne, is what we call the East African Hazard Watch. So that one is basically a multi-hazard platform where any interested individuals or institutions can go and see the new real-time information there, including our recent forecast, the one we have just shown our audience.
Right.
The informations are going to be up and running there. So they can, it's very interactive, they can zoom into your locality, see what is the forecast, and
Yeah, and you say this is information that you update on a more regular basis, because this is an overall forecast for what happens until the end of the year, but you continue to update that as well.
Exactly, monthly, and also as the season progresses, we update this seasonal forecast as well.
Okay, and it's important to state, I think, that, tracking, forecasting, and monitoring weather patterns is not an exact science. So it's something, I guess, that you have to keep
improving
and taking a look at it. From the start, Africa and the region has seen quite some serious devastating effects of drought, famine. We all remember 1984, and this center now being there since 1989. What are some of the trends that you've seen in terms of our preparedness and our response mechanisms, particularly now that we're having even more information timely that is being disseminated at the right time? How far have we come, Dr. Ahmed?
Exactly. Thank you very much, Yvonne. I think we have come long distances, but really there is an encouraging also progress in terms of forecasting. For example, the recent forecasts ICPAC is providing is what we call an objective forecast, which is basically providing information which are more accurate relatively in terms of their skills. They are better compared to some years back. So these informations, recently we are talking about how AI and machine learning also improves forecast. We have a great collaboration with global centers. So this is how actually we are trying to improve the forecast. As we do that, the preparedness and the action part also is evolving. For example, the drought of 1984, we are talking of actually some million plus lives perished. How about the recent drought, for example, of 5 consecutive failed seasons?
Yes.
I think the number is almost, there's no, so that is, I think, the transition that we can be proud of as a region coming forward, but there's a lot also to be done in terms of translating. Exactly. So that's basically translating early warnings, this information available to early action. That is actually the most important one, and IGAD, in fact, is spearheading the development of, for example, a roadmap for anticipatory actions. Even what anticipatory actions means is basically a predefined thresholds. When something reaches here, you take action. So predefined action. Predefined thresholds, pre-identified actions, and pre-arranged finance. So a 3-pillar approach. I'm happy also to report that Kenya just launched last week their national anticipatory action roadmap. So that is, I think, what we need to be focusing now, how this readily available information, warning informations can be translated into early action so that they can save lives, protect livelihoods, and also reduce the losses and damages due to these extremes.
That's right. Thank you so much for this information. Now you have it. We have a regional, local overview of the weather patterns to expect over the next rainy season, that is to the end of the year. And like Dr. Ahmed Amdihoun says, it is early warning that should lead to early action. We've come a long way, but we continue to do more. Kenya having set up its own threshold for action on the same. Thank you very much for the work that you do and for enlightening us on what's to come. And hopefully this is information that we can all use. You can go to that portal. It is the East African Hazard Watch. That's right. And that information is publicly available to anyone and all stakeholders. That's Dr. Ahmed Amdihoun, who's the Regional Program Manager for Disaster Risk Management at the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center here on Power Talk tonight. Thanks.